Adrian Scott. Scott.
Greetings and shalom. I'm Adrian Scott, and welcome to Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. We are now here for our next video in the series. This would be our trip to the Sea of Galilee. Now, a little bit of explanation on this one. There's a few things I'm going to mention just before I get into the pictures and videos. But so this is one, in order to do this, we were not in Israel really long enough to do a lot of stuff on our own, to arrange all our own transportation and everything. So we wanted to make this foray, like most of everything we were doing, most of the time was even within walking distance, but at the very least, we could take a local, light rail or cab or something like that to get from place to place. This was the one exception. That's something that was out of town, and we did not have our own vehicle or anything. So we just found a bus tour that was doing the Sea of Galilee, and we looked at some of the stops that they hit. And I mean, frankly, I don't want to be mean or anything, but there was a lot of stops in here that my friend and I were not particularly interested in, but there were a bunch of stops that we were. So it's like, well, okay, we can put up with that stuff so that we can see the stuff that we are interested in seeing. So that's why we did the bus tour. Now, a lot of those stops that we made didn't bother with any pictures there because that's not what interested us. We were there for some other stuff, and that's the stuff where you will see pictures and videos. But there's a few little sneak peeks of some other stuff in there. Now, this is another one where you're on a very tight schedule on these tours. It's a day trip, and it takes a few hours going back and forth, so there's not a whole lot of sightseeing opportunities and stuff. As it was towards the end, you'll see our stop at the Jordan River, and it was a baptismal location on the Jordan River. But by the time we got there, they were about 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away from closing. So we just kind of went in, got a few pictures and videos, and then had to leave because they were shutting down for the day. So that's the kind of day that it was. So some of the stuff was a little rushed. I didn't fully get pictures and videos of everything that I wanted to get, just because there wasn't enough time or opportunity. I tried to get some key things, and I will mention them as we go along, but it still was an absolutely fascinating trip. I have no regrets in doing it. Thoroughly enjoyed going. The bus was crazy. I mean, for one thing, again, you're still dealing with a really hot area that I'm not used to. Wonderfully air conditioned. I will always sing the praises of that one. But we actually had Wi-Fi in this bus for the entire trip. So another surreal part of this, the kind of behind the scenes, is the entire time I'm doing all of this stuff, I'm communicating with my wife. I'm texting with her. And it's just like, yeah, we just drove past this historical location. We just drove past that historical location. And it was kind of neat to be able to have that communication and share that with her as we were doing that. So taking a look at the first picture in the series, we had to go wander. It was about almost an hour walk from our Airbnb to a particular hotel that was to be the pickup point, and that's where we're standing right here for this photo, is just kind of waiting for the tour bus to arrive and start loading us. When you get on the tour bus, and it finally showed up, it just getting on there and the seats and everything, and I'm just like, are we on a tour bus or is this an airplane? It had the full air and call the stewardess and everything above. Here I am sitting in my seat feeling very fancy and everything, and it was not so full that I got to have more seating area for myself, which when you're 6 foot, 300 pounds, a lot of these vehicles, I don't fit in the seats particularly well. So the fact that I could have a little elbow room to kind of spread my wings a bit, that was nice. That made it more comfortable. You could pull the curtains closed and just snooze for the whole thing. Why you would do that, I don't know. You just paid for the tour, but you can if you want, I guess. But there we are. We're getting ready to go. And We pull out. Now, this is kind of an interesting one. So the tour guide, of course, mentioning things as we go. This is not too far out of Tel Aviv. I guess we just kind of left Tel Aviv proper, but it's hard to see in this picture because there's glare off the window of the bus and everything. But if you look in the backdrop there, you can see fencing, which is on top of a wall. And this is one of the areas. So what's on the other side of that is a Palestinian area. And a lot of these Palestinian areas are fenced off like that. Sadly, as I've been told, this is often for a case that there's just too much violence that would erupt between the Jews and the Palestinians. So separation had to be made, unfortunately. And I don't know too much more than that. It's a pretty hot political topic, and it's not one that I'm well versed on, so I'll just kind of leave it at there. But it's just like, here we are on this road, and it's right there. It was another one of those mildly surreal moments. And here's just a general photo that I dug up. This is not one of mine, to kind of illustrate another one of these walls and how this dynamic works. Sad that we have to have this in our world, but there it is. Now, this little one here is kind of interesting. After you pay attention to the fella snoozing there, the one I said you could close the curtains and sleep through the whole thing, he didn't even bother closing the curtain. It's like, why are you on the tour? So we're going to sleep through the whole thing. But it was an early start, I will say. You had to be there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever, to board this bus. But that hill, if you look carefully, right in the middle of the shot, there's some greenery, and then it's brown, and there's a little hill there, and it looks like a little dusting of trees on top of that hill. That is Har Megiddo, or part of it. We're in that area. So the idea is the English way of saying that would be Armageddon. So that should sound familiar to Bible readers out there. So basically, we're driving through where this great final conflict is going to start or occur between the forces of good and evil, as it were, is right where we're driving through on this bus. And that's the hilltop of this area, or one of the hilltops of this area. Just looking out over the valley, Israel is very much peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. And each of the valleys is generally going to be a farming area. Here, it was one of the first stops on the tour. This is the city of Nazareth, and this is Nazareth as it looks today. Not what you would see back in biblical times, but it is Nazareth nevertheless. Now, the part of the town that we were going to is apparently one of the older parts of town. But I just wanted to get this again, just to get this sense of here's this incredible historical biblical location. Here it is. We're here. We're here. This is Nazareth. And that's it. Taking in the sights. One funny thing that I do have to say about this tour is that I found so interesting. Here we are on a tour that is effectively a Christian tour. That was the point of it, was to make all these stops at noted Christian locations. And it was a few of those that they weren't, I don't hate them, but it was not what we were interested in, my friend and I. That's not why we were there. So we didn't bother with too many pictures at those places. We just kind of took it as an opportunity to walk around, stretch our feet, and take in some other scenery and stuff. But so we're on a Christian tour. The tour guide on this tour is a Jewish fella named Moses, Moshe. And the bus driver is he's a Muslim, Arab, or was he Palestinian? Muslim anyways. But so we got a Muslim bus driver with a Jewish tour guide on a Christian tour bus. And here we are, the two Messianic Hebrew roots guys. And, the entire time we're on this bus taking this tour, I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, where's the punchline? I'm just waiting for the punchline. This is a joke, right? This has to be some kind of joke. Just the irony of that combination is right there. A Christian tour with a Muslim bus driver and a Jewish tour guide. You got to appreciate the humor of stuff like that. And I did. I had so much fun. And by the way, that Moshe, that tour guide, he was amazing. Really, really liked him. And the bus driver, super friendly guy. And he hadn't been in an accident at all that week. So, according to Moshe. So, yeah, that was, it really was a lot of fun. If I had one regret, the stops that my friend and I were interested in making, if they could have been a little longer, but one of them in particular, Capernaum, had to get cut short a little bit. And then the Jordan River also had to get cut short a little bit. So that was kind of a downside, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would do it again. This is a general picture just of Nazareth overhead, not one of mine. But this is where our bus, the street where we actually stopped. And actually, if you look ahead, that big building right in the middle of the street, or what looks like that's the Christian church that we were specifically going to be stopping at. So the bus unloaded here. There was a little gift shop. And then we wander down the street and actually go to that church. And then we'd be picked up in another location after that. So that's where we are. But this, I guess, is a slightly older part of town. But as we're standing here looking around, a couple of things that I still noted, which I found interesting. Just a general scene. You can see tour buses everywhere, as they're parking there as well. But just getting some general shots. This jumped out at me. So here we are, Seventh-day Adventists in Israel. Now I took this one just because it said Nazareth on it, and I was looking for something that said Nazareth Life and Hope Center. But it's still interesting to have the Seventh-day Adventists right there, right beside this big Christian church. Maybe they're connected. I don't even know. Maybe. But the Nazareth Life and Hope Center, and I just found that kind of funny. But I'm twisted that way, I admit. This one I really took. I mean, yes, it's a street scene, but if you look a little bit over across the street and to the left a little bit, Nazarene Tours. Just another idea that you're in Nazareth. I didn't even notice the Downtown Burger & Co. So there's that. But yeah, just a kind of a basic street scene. Hanging out. We did wander over to the church, of course. I said that was where the tour was going. So this is kind of a shot of the outside of that church. Quite the monument, I have to say. Now this one is we're making our way out of Nazareth to continue our trip to the Sea of Galilee. And I just had to get this one. Trying to, because there's a slight delay on my camera, so I have to sort of preemptively guess when to push the button. And I was not aiming for the pimp my car. Okay, that's not what I was going for on this one. I was trying to get the Nazareth pizza just to the left of it because I'm a pizza fiend. I'll admit that one too. And it also said Nazareth, so that was kind of the reason for getting that. But I was trying to get the pizza place, not the pimp my car. It's a really big sign, though, you have to admit. Oh, I wonder if they have big fancy subwoofers and stuff in there. So Cana, this would also be known as Cana. And I had to get this little video. So Cana, if for any of you that are familiar with your Bible, would know that that's the location where Yeshua performed what is considered to be his first miracle when he turned the water into wine at the wedding in Cana. Here, this is it. This is the place right here where he did that. Super cool. You knew I had to get this video. Yeah, just a really trippy one as well. I'd say generally speaking, this location was kind of just close to the halfway mark between Tel Aviv and the Sea of Galilee. I think all said and done, what was it? It was That was at least a few hour drive. I'm trying to think if we minus out the stops, maybe 2 or 3 hours of driving time. But it was a full day thing because, again, we were stopping at multiple locations on the way. Nazareth just being one of them. I don't know if you caught that sign there real quick, said Tiberius, which we'd be passing through. I think I did get a picture there. So if you see in the background of this one, it's very hard to see, kind of hazy and everything, but it's another one of those firsts, right? As so many things were for me, but that is my first time laying my eyes on the Sea of Galilee, right there in the far foreground of that picture. This is another photo that's not mine, but just to give a broader shot of the Sea of Galilee. And if I'm not mistaken, to the left there, what you see, that whole little hillside on the far side of the Sea of Galilee there, that would be the Golan Heights, or part of what they call the West Bank. Another biblical reference in a form right there. You see that sign that indicates Magdela, right? Because we have Mary of Magdala, right? I think it's often, I get the impression sometimes that people have taken that was her name. Her first name Mary, last name Magdala. But what it indicates, it was Mary from Magdala. So there's Magdala, the location. This was another stop on the tour. While everyone went in, we just kind of aired out, enjoyed some air conditioning on the bus, and stepped off and took a few pictures. Interesting little note on the street sign. There's another road sign there indicating Tiberius, which is another biblical location, or something mentioned in the Bible. And yeah, you do pass through Tiberius both ways, really, going in and out on this tour. Did we pass that going through in? I know we definitely did heading out, because it's right on the edge of Tiberius is where we stopped at the Jordan River. You'll be seeing that in a moment, but yeah, kind of neat in the sign there. See that? Yeah, and that air-conditioned bus, just enjoying that. There's my actual first shot of the Sea of Galilee. This is when we were pulling into, there's an area, that's what all these pictures are from, where there's a boat ramp. And I guess there's another type of tour you can do where you effectively, there's a bit of a shot of it right there, but you effectively will get on this boat at the south end of the Sea of Galilee. And where we're at right now is pretty much the northern top end of the Sea of Galilee. But you can just take this boat ride as part of a tour that goes from the south end of the Sea of Galilee to the north end of the Sea of Galilee. And again, this is the docking point for the north part. And there's a couple of restaurants and a gift shop and a little rest area and everything, bathrooms and whatnot. So we stopped here on our bus, but we were watching these boats come and go, and just huge tour groups of people, 30, 40, 50 people. And it was kind of funny because they'd all be wearing uniform shirts. So one group came off and they were all wearing these blue shirts with a little logo. Another group comes off and they're all wearing green shirts with a different logo. So it just all indicates that they're part of this tour group. Kind of neat to even see that. And we were just doing our own thing, as it were. Now, this is not actually in Capernaum. There was some talk that we may not have enough time to actually go to Capernaum, but that rest area that we're at with the boat launch is right beside this. And so there was some concern that we might not have enough time to actually go to Capernaum. So I actually went to as close as I could get to it from our rest area location to kind of get this picture. Fortunately, we did end up having enough time to actually go in there, so that's going to be the next bit of footage that you see. But this one was near Capernaum, not actually at it. Now we're in the synagogue in Capernaum. And this is very much a biblical reference, because we frequently get Jesus would be in the synagogue in Capernaum teaching. More than once this occurred, and you can read it on multiple occasions in there. There may also be an occasion or two where we hear Paul either being at or teaching at the synagogue in Capernaum. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I seem to think I recall reading that. And but anyways, either way, a huge location of note. And this was, aside from the Sea of Galilee, this was probably the biggest area that Kevin and I were interested in seeing on being on this bus tour. So the fact that we did have enough time to get here was truly a blessing. And I'm so thankful for that. Had to get a video in here looking around the ruins of this. That's the Sea of Galilee in the background there. One little excavated area as part of this synagogue. Just seeing the stone layers is really trippy. So there's another area. Now, that building in the forefront there, the modern building, that's like a tourist area. Information. There may be a gift shop in there. But there's a picture you'll see in a second that really touches on something interesting. Directly underneath that. But you can see tucked off just behind in the backdrop, there's the Sea of Galilee. So you're right near the beach of this thing. And this is more area of what I will presume was housing of some kind, or quarters, or possibly storage. But structures of some kind, foundations. Going back to biblical times. And on the other side of the synagogue, getting something similar. And if you kind of even pause on this one, first off, you can see this stonework in the forefront of the picture, and it's got those innate carvings on it, which I thought were really interesting. But in the backdrop, you can see in some of the foundation areas, there's actually some stone vessels, big pots and stuff. And I thought that was quite interesting to see that, and I wondered what those would have been used for. I do not know. Certainly my curiosity was piqued though, and just cool to see it because this is all stuff going back to biblical periods, that biblical time frame. Another look inside the synagogue, looking out at the Sea of Galilee. Then it occurred to me, why am I just taking a picture of that? I got to get me. I got to get me with the Sea of Galilee in the background at the synagogue at Capernaum. So there's that. Now, I was mentioning earlier that new modern building. So that's directly on the top of this image, but you can see the remains underneath here. And according to the tour guide, this was believed to be the house of the mother-in-law of the disciple Peter, Kepha. So that's certainly a location of some interest and significance. But yeah, so another one of those things. And it just, clarifies that you're at excavation level of stuff that is that old. So this is one of those things where, again, we just didn't have enough time to really get into it. But it's like, I cannot possibly go to the Sea of Galilee and not dip my feet in the Sea of Galilee. So we were already being shushed or shooed to get back on the bus. We got to get going. Let's go. And it's like, I got to do this. So I plunked my socks and shoes off, and I just had to step out on the rocks just to get my feet in the Sea of Galilee. I'm sure there's probably sandy beach areas. This wasn't one of them, but I did get my feet in the Sea of Galilee. I got them in the Mediterranean, and I got them in the Sea of Galilee. This is the photo. I wish I would have aimed that a little lower. That's proof, but there we are. And speaking of Tiberius earlier, this is just a picture or two of us driving through Tiberius. This was on way to the Jordan River, our stop for the Jordan River. So the Jordan River, as an interesting little note, runs. If you look at the Sea of Galilee, you'll see that you'll have the Sea of Galilee, and the Jordan River runs from the north of it, or from the north down into the Sea of Galilee. Then you got the Sea of Galilee, but then the Jordan River at the south end runs out again, so it continues. So you've got kind of a northern part of the Jordan River and a southern part. And I think it is actually the northern part, which is where it was believed Yeshua was immersed by Yochanan, John the Baptist. I think, don't quote me on that one. I think that was the northern part. We couldn't make it up there, so we ended up going to the southern part, to this baptismal location. But just as a little note that the Jordan runs in and out of the Sea of Galilee. A final kind of parting view of the sea as we're heading out. And the final part of it was our stop at this baptismal location at the Jordan River. That picture I had to get there just because it's like, that's a lot of shofars in one little container. And if you look at them, some of them are quite ornate. Like, they've got some real decorative trim. Some of them have writing on them, but they're very fancy. I think do I see one there that looks like it's hot rod flames? I didn't even notice that before. But yeah, so, and there's different types of horns as well. It looks like most of those are, what are they, kudu? But I do see some that looks like they're ibex horns and some different types of actual animal horns. There are a few that are ram's horns, it would look like, or similar to it. But yeah, some different kinds there, but some real wild stuff. This is the gift shop at the Jordan River baptismal location. They've got it fenced off, so this is where you can see the railings on the right there, and that's where people will walk down into the water and they'll get immersed. They'll have their baptism. But flowing all down there, if you look ahead straight off, and it keeps going, and I think there was a little canoe with some kids that were kind of rowing down. That might be them at the very top of the river there. And they're just shooting the other direction, but they've got 2 or 3 spots that are gated off that are used as baptismal, and there 2 of them are being used. The third one was not, and so we didn't want to interfere with that, but we wanted to have our own Jordan River thing, so we kind of went to the third unused one. But looking over at the other 2, you can see people actively being baptized. This happens all the time at this location. Lots of cheering and celebrating. One thing that's really cool, and I think you get a little sense of it, is there's fish just swimming everywhere. Hard to see. I don't know if you can see it here. But yeah, even in this location here, they were definitely in there. And there was also a bunch of geese or birds of some kind swimming around as well. And that was the video for the Galilee tour. Yeah, like I said, I there were a few things I wish I'd have had an opportunity to take a bit more of, but I did get that anyway. So that was a very profound day for me, and it heads into our next day. Once we got back, we just kind of hunkered down for the evening and had a quiet one, went over to Old City, hung out. The next day was going to be the big one. And that actually will be our next video. And that's what I'm calling Jerusalem Round 2. But that's where we started hitting all the museums and everything. So we went to the Israel Museum. We went to Yad Vashem. We did a few other things like that. We also found a really interesting park. And I got some footage there, which was kind of cool. But that will be in the next video, which again will be coming soon. So I, once again, just encourage everyone, if you can, give the video a like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell on that subscription so that you do get notified when those videos release or any other videos that we do. And I will wrap it up one more time just by saying blessings to you all in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus our Messiah, and Shalom. Bye for now.
You've been watching Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. If you have a comment, please leave it on the bottom of this video or email us at truthandtestimonyemail@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Truth and Testimony, the broadcast, is not affiliated with Truth and Testimony magazine.